We are live. We are live. Welcome to college football's Peek Around the Corner with the grandest edition of Always Keep Your Head on a Swivel. Welcome in college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. Come on in. Come on into the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kirk Gowdy Avenue. Better to see what's coming up ahead. Wow. Breaking news. Holy smokes. First of all, I want to thank my sister, Susan Murray, who might pop up in the chat. She's going to be looking out for my mom and dad tonight because things exploded tonight. Also, my mom and dad are celebrating their 68th wedding anniversary. 6-8. 68 wedding anniversary, May 21st, which is tomorrow. So if you can wish them a happy 68th anniversary in the chat, I would be so very thankful. I know that I said that I wouldn't be around for a few days at least, but thanks to my sister and to my family and to my wife, who's still out in Mexico, and all their support. Wow, we had a major news tonight. And I got to say, you know, my father always... I have been taught this, and I have said this on this live show. I have said this on this live show many times, and you're going to say, Greg, you don't have to remind us. You don't have to say this again. But it's okay to be wrong about something And it's okay to be right about something, to be correct about something. It's not right. It's not okay to be wrong about something and be a jackwagon about it. And it's not okay to be correct about something and not be a jackwagon about it. Because I know my father and mother are watching this, I'm going to do the best I can not to be a jackwagon about it. We have been saying this since the start of this YouTube channel. Consolidation wasn't over. We said when Kevin Warren left his seat at the Big Ten offices, officially May 15th. Was it May 15th? It's only May 20th. Holy smokes. We said that was the biggest hurdle. The biggest hurdle for further Big Ten expansion just left the room. There are other hurdles. But the biggest one just left the room. It would not have mattered if the money was there. It would not have mattered if the president's votes were there. It would not have mattered. It would not have mattered. It would not have mattered. There would not have been further Big Ten expansion at this time if Kevin Warren remained in the seat. We reported that to y'all here at Peek Around the Corner. And we said there'd be stories written later. And there will be. It won't be by us. And by the way, if Comcast should nip us in the butt again tonight, we're coming right back on. We'll just call it part 2. I don't think it's going to happen again. It's happened a few times, but if our stream goes down, don't go anywhere. Come right back around again. We'll be going part 2. Many people are saying, what is going on? What are you talking about, Greg? Well, we'll get to that in a second. But first of all, we have to thank our sponsor. Welcome to Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. We invite you to discover the Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference. Clean hot air roasted coffee produces a smoother, a richer, a healthier coffee that is less bitter and less acidic. Our hot air roasted coffee uses convection heat to loft the beans for a very even heat transfer. The clean, bright taste that people rave about is achieved by roasting the bean quickly and evenly while suspended on a bed of hot air. From craft to cup, hand pick coffee beans, the smoothest coffee that the little general has ever had. So get yourself a bag of this coffee. Go to the link provided in the description. And if you do so, and if you want to support this channel, this independent channel, this rebel outpost of all college football YouTube channels, put down PATC in the comments section and the website. And we appreciate you so very much. Go to our merchandise store. I know I keep saying this, but the t-shirts are right around the corner at Peek Around the Corner with new art. So keep an eye on the new merch store. And again, the most important thing I can tell you tonight is this. Cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. And I think Ted Carter is a part of it. So right away, I get a comment. Larry Pilgrim, is an expansion doors always open? Well, not according to a lot of people on Twitter and a lot of people on YouTube channels, Larry. I have been raked through the coals because I said the Big Ten expansion was definitely cracked open. And we said that Oregon and Washington, that the Big Ten had strong interests and Fox Sports had strong interests. And Larry, people can't have it both ways. We're not going to play that game tonight. Again, I'm going to do the best I can not to be a jackwagon. But a lot of people said the opposite, Larry. I'm not going to name names, but we're not going to play that game tonight. Ted Carter laid out the dominoes. A lot of people speculating on what this all could be. Okay, let's get to Ted Carter's comments. And there it is. Boom. Brett McMurphy, breaking news tonight at 5:33 p.m. Nebraska President Ted Carter tells the Tom Shake, more realignment is ahead. How big should Big Ten be? Do we need 4 more Pac-12 teams? I think we have another year or 2 of the status quo with few minor changes. With few minor changes. What does the few minor changes? I think we have another year or 2 of the status quo with few minor changes. But I think over the next year, there's going to be a lot of big changes that are going to happen. 2 teams that move from one of the Power 5 conferences that cause things to unravel. There's a domino effect. Domino effect. How many times have we used that phrase here at Peek Around the Corner? One team leaves the ACC. It has a domino effect. Same with teams leaving the Pac-12. I'm going to say this. There's so much here, ladies and gentlemen. There is so much here. And I don't want to accuse Ted Carter of anything. So it's just speculation. Speculation. I'm going to use the word allegedly. Allegedly. I think this is a little bit of cloak and dagger. Right out in the open. I think we have another year or 2 of the status quo with few minor changes. But I think over the next year, there's going to be a lot of big changes that are going to happen. 2 teams that move from one of the Power 5 conferences that cause things to unravel. What 2 teams? What Power 5? Are we talking Oregon, Washington? Are we talking Colorado, Arizona, the Big 12, Oregon, Washington to the Big 10? There's a domino effect. One team leaves the ACC, it has a domino effect. Same with teams leaving the Pac-12. Could that one team that leaves the ACC, we've talked about it here at Peek Around the Corner over and over again. The easiest way for the ACC to implode if Notre Dame leaves. That's the thread that if you pull it, everything collapses. Or that's the theory of the Florida State Seminoles. We told you that on March 31st. This spring, March 31st. That was the number one bullet of how the ACC could collapse. Or at least have the grant of rights go from 2036 to 2027. Because the grant of rights were extended from 2027 to 2036 from the creation of the ACC network. Florida State Money Perch told us, and we told you on March 31st. March 31st is a pretty big day for Peek Around the Corner. That was the day that we broke the news about USC called the Big Ten. That happened in 2021. And now March 31st was the day that we broke to you the number one way that the ACC unravels. Notre Dame leaves first because Florida State believes they could go and win that court case to break the gore, because the considerations that they received in extending the grant of rights was the value, the creation, and the value, the projected value of the ACC network. And if Notre Dame leaves, ladies and gentlemen, the ACC network does not carry the value that it had before. So is it Notre Dame? One team leaves the ACC and it has a domino effect. Or is it something crazy? Something that I might talk about later tonight, but we're going to get to your phone calls and your comments as soon as possible. There is a theory out there that an ACC team could possibly leave the conference and challenge the grant rights while they're in another conference, getting paid in a certain way that gives them life, that gives them some income. I don't know if we're going to get to that tonight. It's a I would call it a crazy theory, but it has been brought up by people, serious people that I know. So that one team leaving the ACC, it's a stretch. It's a stretch that any ACC team will leave if it's not Notre Dame within the next year. But I want to keep your head on a swivel, because we might talk about that later tonight. We might save it for another live show. But just read that one more time. Just read that. Here's Ted Carter out in the open saying, how big should the Big Ten be? Do we need 4 more Pac-12 teams? Because that's being discussed. If you go to 4 Pac-12 schools, ladies and gentlemen, that means the Big Ten, years down the road, has their sight on being a 24-team conference. If you get 6 teams on the Pacific Coast, right, you're looking at 24. But remember this. Ted Carter is saying, how big should the Big Ten be? In other words, do we go to 24? That means, in my mind, that means, do we need another 4 more Pac-12 teams? We've been saying this over and over and over again. The Big Ten Conference was never going to just have USC and UCLA on the Pacific Coast Island when the Big Ten knows they're going to be successful somewhere along the road, down the eastern corridor, down to the southeast. They're going to expand somewhere southeast again. They're going to be able to do it. Regardless if the SEC eats first, eats second, eat third, the Big Ten's going to be able to expand out east. And in doing so, they're going to have to go west. They may go west first before they go east. But you're not going to have a 20, a 21, a 22, a 24 team conference, school, university conference, with only having 2 teams out on the Pacific Coast. I don't know what else that we could possibly say. I don't know how much more clear we could have been. When we discussed possible Big Ten, remember we talked about it for those who have been following our program since the beginning. We said there was a go or no go for launch between August 15th and October 15th for expansion at that time. In the first week of October, there was a no-go for launch. No go for launch, no Big Ten expansion at this time. And then what happened? Kevin Warren said he's leaving. And then bam, we at Peek Around the Corner, expansion doors cracked open. We explained the reason why. We got shredded by the same people who shredded us when we said USC called the Big Ten and everything else that we've said here at Peek Around the Corner. There is a mighty interest in Oregon. There is a mighty interest in Oregon. There is a mighty interest in Washington. All the reasons we've said, all the way back to episode 52. Well, before that, but we really explained it I think episode 52. Oregon and Washington knew that if they couldn't get it now, they're going to keep swinging. Oregon is a brand multiplier. Fox Sports, we hinted at Peek Around the Corner. We hinted. And then finally I just said it. Because I can't come out and say everything at Peek Around the Corner. We're protecting sources. We're protecting stories. But we give you the best that we possibly can. We finally came out and said, Fox Sports wants Oregon in the Big Ten. We finally said it. Do you all remember that? And then, of course, the Big Ten president wants Washington for obvious reasons. Now, if you go, there's so many ways we could look at this. Look at it from this way. Ted Carter just said this. What do you think Washington and Oregon are thinking right now? They know where they stand with the Big Ten. When Brett McMurphy said cleared and vetted, or did he say vetted and cleared? I don't know which way he said it. But when he said it, people tried to sanitize that statement. All over the place. Do you remember that? People went on YouTube channels. People wrote their articles saying, well, vetted and cleared. That doesn't mean, that just means they're 2 of the possible 8 schools that would be vetted and cleared. Vetted and cleared don't mean nothing. What did Brett McMurphy say on 365 Sports? And by the way, first of all, Brett McMurphy's the best there is. Second of all, 365 Sports has been kicking bleep throughout this whole process. Craig Smoke, David Smoke, Paul Catalina, Brian Etheridge. They should win the Pulitzer Prize, or we'll call it the Flugarian Prize for best writing during a lot of this. Take that as you want. Take that as you wish. What do you think? When Brett McMurphy was on 365 Sports, go listen to it again. He didn't just say vetted and cleared. He said vetted and cleared, and then about a minute later, he says if things go, it's a big if, he said, but if Big 12 is able to get a Pac-12 school, maybe Colorado, maybe Arizona, then Brett McMurphy says that he could see it happening, Washington and Oregon to the Big Ten. He said that on 365 Sports. He didn't say I could see Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, Oregon State, Washington State, Oregon, Washington in the Big Ten. He said Oregon and Washington. But people forget, people just eliminated that part of what Brett McMurphy said. And they try to sanitize the clear and vetted part. So Washington and Oregon are sitting here. They're sitting over there, Pac-12 meeting negotiations. And then Ted Carter lays this bomb. Do we need another? Do we need 4 more Pac-12 teams? Do we need 4 more Pac-12 teams? In other words, 2 is basically assured. And we oh man, we've been saying that, and so what is Washington? Then Carter says, but I think over the next year there's going to be a lot of big changes that are going to happen. 2 teams that move from one of the Power 5 conferences that causes things to unravel. What do you think Washington and Oregon are doing right now when they see that? Think they're running up to sign a grant of rights with the Pac-12? I'm going to make this, I have a very loud voice. I'm going to make this as loud and clear as I can possibly say it. Oregon and Washington knows they're wanted by the Big Ten. Is there any confusion there? Now, of course, there's dominoes. I'm sorry, there's hurdles still. Big Ten's got to come up with some money. I know there's been some reports out there that CBS, NBC, and Fox have agreed to have enough money to where they're going to bring in an Oregon and Washington. I have not been able to confirm that reporting. It may be true. Or maybe they bring on an Amazon because Amazon is out with the Pac-12. There are hurdles. You got to swing the votes. Obviously, Nebraska looks like they know what's going to happen. They understand. So the rest of most of these Big Ten universities, they understand we're still in the era of consolidation. And the Big Ten was always going to expand out to the Pac-12 again. Now, when Carter says, possibly, let's post that again. We're going to be posting it a lot. People are joining our show left and right. People are joining our show left and right. Nebraska President Ted says, how big should the Big Ten be? Do we need 4 more Pac-12 teams? Okay. All right. You know what? They may need 4 more Pac-12 teams. They may need it. If they go to 24 years down the road. So who are those 4? Washington and Oregon. But who's the 3rd and who's the 4th school? Now suddenly you got Utah sitting there. Stanford. Did California blow their wad? Did they take themselves out for their actions? Or being the number 1, number 2 public school in all the land, is that enough to get in to the Big Ten? It could be. Academics, research is still very, very important in realignment, but there's other considerations, especially when we're going to this change in this changing world that we've talked about. What about Colorado and Arizona? What are they thinking tonight? We began Act 11 a couple days ago. Colorado's in the middle of the stage. Arizona's creeping to the middle. They're not there yet. George Klikoff is on that stage. Brett Yormark is on that stage. We said this days and days ago that UConn was in the back row taking notes. And then suddenly there's an athletic article about UConn. We believe Gonzaga got in the car and drove out of the parking lot. They might want to come back in. I'm just saying. But right now, they drove the car out of the parking lot. Arizona State, nowhere to be seen. They're not in the building. What do you think Arizona and Colorado are thinking about right now when you have Ted Carter, the Nebraska's president, saying maybe we should take 4 more schools? 4 schools. We could take up to 4 schools. They're definitely taking 2 schools. Everybody knows who those 2 schools are. Do they hang around any longer? Or do they jump over the wall to make sure that they're part of this college football world when 2026, the great gold rush, comes around? This statement from Ted Carter is impacting everything. Impacting everything. And I think I could be wrong. This is my speculation. I think it was a cloak and dagger move. The Big Ten really wants Oregon and Washington. It's all about the timing. It's all about the timing, ladies and gentlemen. The legal counsel, we said this weeks and weeks ago, they don't want to do it. But if the Big 12 cracks the Pac-12 first, that's another hurdle that's been eliminated. And who knows? That might be the last hurdle. Tony Petitti has been the Big Ten commissioner for 5 days. For 5 days. For 5 days. And he's got Ted Carter, the president of Nebraska, coming out and saying this. Again, going to show it again. And then we're going to get to your comments. Then we're going to get to your phone calls. And we could be here all night long. As long as Comcast lets us on all night long. How big should the Big Ten be? Do we need 4 more Pac-12 teams? He didn't say 2 more Pac-12 teams. Because they were never going to leave USC and UCLA home on an island. Do we need 4 more Pac-12 teams? I think over the next year, there's going to be a lot of big changes that are going to happen. You see, the Big Ten have been talking about this over and over and over and over again. They're doing cost analysis. But they always knew. They always knew that they were going to go west again. It's about timing. No question about it. No question about it. Oregon and Washington had preliminary meetings with the Big Ten. Brett McMurphy said cleared, vetted, and you know who those people are out on Twitter and message boards saying, that doesn't mean nothing. That doesn't mean nothing. Big Ten's not going to expand anymore to the Pacific Coast. And here's the one, and then I'm going to get to your comments. And here's the one that just bakes my cake every time I hear it. If they were going to expand with Oregon and Washington, they would have already done so. I can't stand that logic. That means absolutely nothing in this world. That means you believe when you say something like that, you are saying you don't believe there's going to be any more changes because it didn't happen before today. I mean, come on. There are logical reasons. You can come out with them that Oregon and Washington shouldn't be in the Big Ten. Maybe not very good recruiting grounds. The East Coast teams are more valuable. There's reasons, but do not say, please do not say here at Peek Around the Corner, it's not going to happen because if it would have happened, it would have been done already. That doesn't work here at Peek Around the Corner. Okay. Let's get to your comments. We got like 1,000 people here. Thanks for y'all joining in. I know this is a surprise. I know I said I was going to have to take a few days off. Susan Murray, my sister, is coming in, helping us out. I appreciate her. 68. Happy 68th anniversary to Mom and Dad. Thank you so much, Laura Weiss. Tater Tot, 68 years. Holy crap. May 21st, 1955. Charlie Davis, congratulations to your parents. Thank you so very much. Jay Pure Mutter, thank you, Susan. You deserve a cloak and dagger drink. Absolutely. Daniel Montecastle, it's about to go down. Sean Eaton, Oregon and Washington to the Big Ten. Hi, Greg. Eric from Mesquite, Nevada in the house. Thank you for coming on, Eric. Thank you, David. No Bunga. Immaculate's in here. Rory's in here. T-Vi Terps, the Terrapin is in here. Curtis, of course, Mona Vision. It's Straight Dagger, no cloak. Moan Vision, Mr. Buckeye. It's Straight Dagger, no cloak. That you're probably right. I probably shouldn't be saying cloak and dagger on what Ted Carter, the president of Nebraska, just said. Yeah, Eisman 57, Mr. Hawkeye's in the house. I think we have another year or two of the status quo with few minor changes. But I think over the next year, there's going to be a lot of big changes. These two sentences contradict. Yeah, they do. They do. They do. I would emphasize the following. Oregon and Washington are not signing any grant of rights that keeps them tethered to the Pac-12 for another 4 or 5 years or another 3 years. Can we agree on that? Finally, everybody? Ryan Thomas, holy smokes. Absolutely. Wow, a lot of great comments. There's no way I can get to them. If you wanted for me to get to your comments, just hit the $sign with a small donation. I'll get to it as soon as I can. Hit the like button. That is absolutely free. That helps us out so much on our channel. Subscribe to our channel. It's the only way to get notified because we can pop up at any time, especially this YouTube channel when we don't know the window of when we can get on here. So you need to subscribe to this channel and share the video with your family and friends. Is Jim Phillips on the stage? Not during Act 11. Act 12. Act 12 for the Pac-12 should happen around June 1st. That's what we believe at Peek Around the Corner. That's what we believe. Colorado is in the center of the stage. T5 Terps, okay, Flugs, you are convincing me now. Still on the ACC first train, but okay, I can see it. Okay. Let's get to your phone calls. I'm going to continue to hit your comments, but I know there's a lot of people that need to call in. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? President Ted Carter, he spoke. He laid a bomb. Brett McMurphy puts it out there. The phone numbers is 763-260-1333, 763.
Call from
Eric.
Is that Eric?
This is Eric.
All right, you're on the the floor is yours.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Doing great. Big night tonight.
First off, real quick, we'll get into the meat and potatoes, but I want to say happy anniversary to your folks.
Thank you.
We're of a similar generation. My parents were married in August of '62, so similar time frame there.
Got it. Thank you very much.
And you betcha. And I understand your frustrations with the internet. We live out here, we used to live in a big city, but we live out here in rural Mesquite, Nevada, about 80 miles north on the Utah-Arizona-Nevada border from Vegas, about 80 miles from Vegas and about 30 miles from St. George, Utah. We're kind of out in a rural area, so we gained tranquility, but we lost some conveniences sometimes. So I share your frustration with the internet. Are you in a smaller town there? Or?
No, we're not in a smaller town. So, no, we're not, but we're still having issues. And I guess Big Ten Ted does a great job, has a great YouTube channel. He lives in the East Metro, and he's having problems with Comcast as well. So,
we used to have Comcast when I lived in Salt Lake City for a time. I don't know if you know where Salt Lake City is. But when I lived in Salt Lake City for a time, I had Comcast.
The little general's been there. Yep.
And it's actually a lot bigger metropolitan area than people think because it's basically all city from Ogden, Utah to Provo, Utah. It's just one suburb after another, kind of like the metropolitan, Minnesota, Twin Cities area where it's just a whole bunch of the cities. So I'm assuming you're kind of a suburb of Minneapolis then where you're at.
Yep.
So I definitely can feel your pain a little bit with the internet, but hey, when you talk about awards for 365, I've been on here several times defending those guys. They're great.
Yeah.
They're some of the best in the business.
Yeah.
Greg McMurphy is great. But Greg, I mean this sincerely. I'm not just saying this to brown nose. It's from the heart. If they had an award for a podcast on YouTube and stuff, if they had a Peabody for that like they do, you should be up for an award yourself.
Thank
You're
you,
right
sir.
there with them. As far as I'm concerned, they're with you. And give our love and respect to the little general. I know you're missing. She'll get home safe.
Yeah.
What I want to mention is, as big as this is, just a few things, is as big an issue as this is for the Big Ten, I actually think right now it's even a much huger issue for the Pac.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, Washington and Oregon, I think, already knew they were wanted. The big issue is all the other teams in the Pac-10 now know how bad they're wanted. So if you're sitting there and you're Arizona and you're Colorado and you're even Washington State or Oregon State or some of these other schools, are you going to sign a grant of rights? I don't think so. And if you're the network, are you going to offer as much money knowing that Oregon and Washington ain't going to be there very long? And if you can only get a short grant of rights, how committed are you to really, and how the interest level of some of these TV partners in the TV negotiations may have went way down after a comment like that, and the amount of money they might be willing to pay went way down if they think they're going to be sitting there with a conference with no Oregon and Washington. And the president of Nebraska is no dummy. You don't become the president of a university without knowing the impact of what you're going to say before you say it. He said that on purpose. He said it with reason, and he said it to take a shot across the bow. I think what he was trying to create is a scenario to say to Brett Yormark over in the Big 12, go ahead, guy, it's okay, make your move.
And he also said it. He also said it. Go ahead.
He's saying we're going to make it easier for you because now they're going to want to come because they know that the other two are going to leave. They're going to want to come. He just made Brett's job easier.
And he also said it because the Big Ten have been talking about this, especially when Kevin Warren gave his notice. And that's when we reported to you all that this was happening. It's very clear. The Big Ten have been analyzing this over and over again. And this is also playing the part of why the Big Ten hasn't put out this schedule yet for 2024. And this is why I say it could happen in 5 months from now or 5 years from now with Oregon and Washington. Because a lot of people, I'm sorry, go ahead, finish your call, and then we got a lot more calls to get to. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Now, here's a question I have, and I'm not naive, even though I'm a BYU fan. I know it's a 1 in a million shot. But do you think there's even a small chance? Because the former president of the Big Ten that recently left came out and said it's not a requirement. We will take schools that are not AUU schools, as long as they're really good academic schools. BYU is not a research-centered school. They're more of a teaching-centered school like the old Jesuit schools, but nonetheless, they're very high-ranked across the board in most academic areas. BYU is not an easy school to get into academically. It's a very good academic school, whether it's AUU or not. So here's my question. I know it's a long shot, but let's say at some point down the road, Notre Dame gets into the Big Ten, right? Notre Dame and BYU's have a pretty good relationship together just because they're both big national private religious schools. There's other private religious schools, but none on a nationwide international school that pretty much represent one religion the way BYU and Notre Dame does. Now, BYU's not as big as Notre Dame, but they're probably the closest thing to that scale. So what if Notre Dame says, look, we don't want to be the only private religious school in this league. We do not want to be the only private religious school in this league. Is there a small chance that they might?
I don't think so.
If BYU grows in the Big 12 and becomes a powerhouse, is there a chance that they might take BYU with them?
I don't think so. Nothing against BYU. BYU got over the wall. They're in the Big 12. Huge fan base, huge value. But I think people misrepresent Notre Dame. People say Notre Dame is the non-AAU exception to the Big Ten. They don't have that correct. Notre Dame is the large research exception to the Big Ten. They're the exception of Big Ten taking a school that is not large in research. But there's other schools that the Big Ten would take, them not being AAU. There's a difference. But yeah, no disregard to BYU, huge fan base, but I don't think BYU has a shot.
Okay, because I'm saying there's even a case that BYU may grow into somewhat of a powerhouse now that they finally get T5.
And they very well might, because right now BYU, starting this year, is going to get on a platform of an evil level, like with media money, and they're going to have resources that they hadn't had before when they were fantastic. So yeah, not so much this year, but years down the road, I expect big things from BYU, and not just in football, but everything else that they do great in. So
that's why I was thinking that just maybe if Notre Dame said, hey, we would really like to have them because we don't want to be the only religious school, you don't think there's any chance at all?
No.
And if you notice that BYU has moderated some of their political stances over the last
I don't think
years.
it has. It has to do with the fact that the Big Ten, again, people get this mixed up. It's not that you basically need to be a large research university. You don't necessarily need to have AAU, a private organization status, but you need to be a large research. But we're going to go on in the next call. Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Appreciate the phone call.
And one last question. When do you think we'll find out with the Big 12 and the Pac-10 one way or the other if teams are coming? By the end of the year?
Act 12, June 1st.
Yeah.
Act 12, June 1st. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Fantastic phone call.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas is in the house. The floor is yours, good sir.
Hello, Greg. I want people to remind some people. Do you remember what the Stanford president said a few months ago, Greg?
Yeah, he did say something, but I forgot what he said.
He was talking about the challenges of it, and people that think that Stanford's turning down a Big Ten invite if Washington and Oregon are coming along, that's nuts. Stanford is not turning down a Big Ten invite. Let's just stop that. I mean, let's just please stop that. They are taking that if they get a chance, and generally, I think that, I could see right now with the walls closing on Notre Dame, I could see Oregon and Washington invited in the next few months, and perhaps if Notre Dame finally realizes they're not going to get the money they think they will from NBC and decides to join the Big Ten, start the rest of the dominoes, then I think Stanford gets in, and they probably just have 5 West Coast teams, and that's it. But Stanford is not turning down a Big Ten invite, people. Nobody's turning down that.
I'm just saying, if the Big Ten does go to 24,
yeah, I mean,
they're going to have 6 teams out west. They don't necessarily have to be on the Pacific Coast, but there's going to be 6 There's going to be 6 of them out there because they're going to have highly regionalized divisions in a 24-team conference. I'm not saying they're going to 24. What I am saying, I think Ted Carter kind of opened up the curtain on that, right? And said, how big are we going to get? Do we need 4 more Pac-12 schools?
Well, just because Ted Carter said there are 4 schools doesn't mean there's support for 4 Pac-12 schools.
No, well, not right now, but
there may be 2. There's probably support for 2 right now.
Sure.
And I think I think Oregon and Washington will happen, and there'll be 18. But I don't think the other 2 Pac-12 schools, if there are 6 in total, I don't think they're coming along this round. I think that's down the road.
Very well could be true. Yes. Yep.
I mean, because they may want to see, what their viewpoint might be is, okay, well, can we see what happens with Colorado? Can they turn things around? Then that might be attractive to them. I mean, it all depends on what happens. But, I certainly think that Cal's baffling to me. and like I've said before, the Big Ten is not hurting academically. Okay, they're amazing as it is. So I mean, from a research perspective, they're amazing as it is. So I mean, taking Cal, isn't necessary. They're going to care more about the quality that comes with that in athletics. But I think it's. I think it's just sort of interesting. I wonder if George Kliavkoff is finding the way to blame this on the Big 12 right now. I'm sure he is.
I don't know. This is a bad night for George Kliavkoff because, like the previous caller, Eric said, I don't know. This really hurts their negotiation position.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say one thing to Eric as a fellow Cougar fan, with all respect, Eric. It's more likely that it's an SEC invite than a Big Ten invite, and that's not happening either. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and to the Utah folks, yeah, the day Utah gets a Big Ten invite, the day BYU gets an SEC invite. So let's just stop with that. Anywho, I think that right now, I certainly think there's probably support for Oregon and Washington, and I think that, like you mentioned, 18 works pretty well for the 3-1-1 scheduling model.
Yeah, it does.
So, I mean,
it does.
I see that happening, and perhaps the Big Ten waits to see what happens. Over the next 6 years out west, and maybe they come and grab some Big 12 schools. 2 Big 12 schools. So let's say Arizona State and Colorado join the Big 12, and let's say let's say Dillingham could turn things around and Dion turns things around. 5 or 6 years from now, those could be great brands. Denver and Phoenix markets. Those could be the other 2 Pacific schools you mentioned, Greg. So I mean, I think that's I don't know if it's necessarily imminent, and I'm sure that there's I would have to think that right now, I probably, if they go to 20, maybe it's 4 pods of 5, and they add Stanford, and and they're getting Notre Dame, but we'll see what happens. But I think in the we'll see what happens. But the ACC, that's still like you said, that's a tricky situation. That's still a long ways off. I think the ACC more likely implodes around 2030 or 31.
It's all about Notre Dame. It pretty much is all about Notre
absolutely.
Dame. Yeah,
absolutely. And the question is how hard of a line in the sand is NBC going to draw for Notre Dame? I mean, I don't think is NBC going to pay them $70 million a season? I don't know. There's a lot of risk with that. So we'll see. I mean, 60 million. I mean, 50. I mean, right now they're getting 15. I don't know, but I think, like you said, the walls are closing on Notre Dame, and I think that's the fish that the Big Ten really wants. And we'll see. But my last thought is I just think, well, I'll reiterate, I just think it's 2 for now. Oregon and Washington, they'll try to squeeze and pressure and get Notre Dame, and then grab, if they do, they grab Stanford, and then when the ACC, if that opens up more, then they'll figure out and maybe add one more out west, or maybe do something else. But that's it, and have a great weekend, Greg.
Thank you.
All you do.
Great call. Thank you. Matthew Carlson, thank you so much for the donation, your generosity. I appreciate it. Helping us keep the lights on here, peek around the corner. Any other networks or Apple, Amazon with new expansion? With what expansion? Big Ten expansion? If there is a new media partner, I would look at Amazon. It's not going to be Apple. I would be looking at Amazon as a possibility.
Call from
Western Civic.
Western Civic is on the line. The floor is yours. Colorado has a lot to think about tonight, sir.
Yeah, wow. got some goods for you tonight. I do. I got the whole enchilada. I'm going to spill it all for you, everything I know. And it ain't all that much, but I'm going to give you the source, and we're going to break some stuff down. But first, sorry about the Zoom. I told you Big 12, and I told you BYU would want to go independent again. You see?
No.
You see, they're already trying to jump ship.
No.
Anyway, okay, well, you heard the callers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I did.
Is there a way that maybe there's a chance that we could go to maybe? Never mind. Okay, let's look at these 7 schools. Good sir, Flugard.
Yes.
There is so much. You ever play Sudoku?
No.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's if anybody out there has played Sudoku, we're going to do something similar. We're going to use some logic here. But before we get to that, I'm going to tell you what it was. And it's interesting you say your show started on August 10th. Because it was August 10th, I believe, or August 11th. It was one of those two. I can't remember. But that was the last time I got a really juicy piece of inside information. And I haven't had anything else since, and I don't expect to get any more. I'm obviously not trustworthy with this information. I'm happy to blow it all over the place. But what I was told, the final thing I was told by someone in the South, an old friend of mine, the only thing I can do is protect his name. That's about the only thing I could. Not going to do that. The day Miami jumped in with these 7, okay, that's the last hit. And he said, boom, they're going to 25. Notre Dame is staying independent. And it's going to be a North versus South, slave state versus the rest. And I'm like, okay, wow. And from that, we started cobbling together all the public information, what Kevin Warren said, et cetera, and we got the full memo. We put it together. It also said there's going to be a handful of independents. All right. So, now what was the thing I told you, Greg? I said if the big goes west again, what are they going to do? What did I say? Do you remember?
You said they would take a bunch. You said they would take like 6 of them.
That's it. I said they would take at least 6. Okay. So what do we have going on in the SEC over here? Excuse me, the ACC. The list of 7 schools. Let's look at these 7 schools because we have 7 out west as well. They're called the 7-pack AAU schools. I call them the Big 7. Dum-dum. Bam. We got the Magnificent 7 and we got the Big 7. But let's hold on a second. Let's look. There was one other thing, okay? I told you the last piece of information I got was Miami is in. They're going to the SEC August 10th. Boom, boom, boom. That's it. They're going to 25. And then there was just one other thing that I kept getting from this same source. Because as you know, Greg, I kept going. I'm looking at this. And I go, if the big breaks into the South, this is what I've been pushing for the last few months, if the big breaks into the South, the SEC is screwed, right? I keep pushing that. And then my friend, every once in a while, he'd give me this whisper. And he said, well, no, don't worry about it. If the big goes in, don't worry about it. And he had this little solution. I'm like, you're crazy. I'll tell you what that was in just a second. And he said it multiple times. And I said, you're nuts. That's not happening. Okay, but let's look at these 7. North Carolina State, UVA, Virginia Tech, Clemson, Florida State, and Miami. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's look at what it isn't. Is this a new conference? Are they breaking off? Are they going to be the 7-4? No, because they would include Georgia Tech and they would include Pitt. Is this a big list? Is this the Big 10? No, it isn't, because they don't do that. They don't take the state schools. That's an SEC pattern. And if you look at this, from the SEC, these are all Southern schools, and they're not taking no Louisville because they got Kentucky, no Georgia Tech because they got Georgia, right?
Yeah, I'm not try to get to your end point here. We got a lot of callers.
I will. All right, I'm trying, but it's good. Come on, man.
I'm sure
we're
it's
gonna
good.
get there. Here
I'm
we
sure
go.
it's fantastic. But we got a lot of callers tonight, so get to your point.
Okay, I'm gonna get there. It's gonna be worth it. We're almost there. So that's 7. In order to get to 25, both of these conferences need to add 9. So that's 2 more. What would be the 2 more? for the SEC. Well, if you want to get defensive, you'd lock down the South, get Georgia Tech and Duke. Well, I don't think that's going to happen because it doesn't add enough market. All right, well, let's go into the Big 12 and let's see. Why don't we take the best they got there? Let's take TCU and UCF. Well, okay, that's going to screw Kansas because they're not going there either because they don't get enough. All right, now here it comes. This is what the guy told me. You got 20 seconds. He said, don't worry if they go south because of the Southern Mountain Schools. I said, you're crazy. No one wants to be in the West and go play all their games in the South. Then I've been listening to Arizona. I've been researching Arizona since last week. And there are a few things about Arizona. They're ridiculously cocky about where they're going to end up, given everything we think about. Also, they are tied at the hip with ASU, which is not something I anticipated. The big expands. They don't care who your state school is. We're taking your state flagship, and that's it. The SEC won't do that. The SEC will expand and take your state school.
Okay, wind it up, Weston. What? Wind it up.
I don't know if that's what they're going to do.
Got it.
Those 7 are SEC, and the other 2, I bet you they're going to take the 8 million eyeballs in Arizona, and that's your SEC.
Got it. Arizona, SEC. Arizona, SEC, Western Civic.
I think I'm not 100%. But I kept hearing it.
But he's not 100% sure. This is educated speculation. Western Civic. Got it. Thanks for the phone call, sir.
I can't believe it, but I've been hearing it, and I think that's what's happening.
Yes.
And I think that Duke and Georgia Tech are going to the big.
Okay,
Duke and Georgia Tech to the big.
Georgia Tech big. Arizona going to the SEC according to Western Civic. Okay. Phone line 763-260-1333. Again, the big news tonight. Big news tonight.
Call from
Ryan Martin.
Ryan Martin is on the phone. The floor is yours, good sir.
How's it going, Mr. Greg?
Doing great. Hanging in there.
I feel you. I feel like we're all hanging in there.
Yes.
I wanted to call in last night and talk about UConn, but you kind of got cut off before you could get to the phone calls yesterday.
Yep.
So I think if UConn is actually a legit thing, that they're on the Big 12's radar, that they're on Brett Yormark's radar.
Yeah.
There's going to have to be concessions made on both sides. I would assume that they are a contingency plan primarily, and that if you look at their football program, they're not much worse off than the University of Kansas is. They're just as valuable from a basketball perspective. I think the only way that you get UConn out of the Big East is if Brett Yormark and the Big 12 give UConn a credible path to full membership, if not a full membership outright. That's going to have to be the concession made there. There's going to have to be some sort of evaluation, some sort of reachable path for all sports membership in the Big 12 with them. Otherwise, they're back in the Big East, back with cohorts that they played with for years. There's no reason for them to continue independence and just join the Big 12 for, whatever they're willing to give for, their basketball share, whether that's like $10 million or whatever that ends up being.
Yeah.
Now, I think pivoting off of that, the concession that UConn's going to have to make is that they're going to have to show some massive investment in their football program. They're going to have to show major donor support, major fan support. There's going to have to be some metric there. That's going to be their concession, right? I think pivoting onto this McMurphy tweet that went out from that has the quote from the Nebraska.
Yep.
Was it the president or the AD? I can't remember.
It's the president, and I'll put it up on the screen once again here. It's the president, Ted Carter.
So he's talking about 3 schools. He's very, very plainly signaling 2 from the Pac and 1 from the ACC.
Yep.
The ACC granted rights, and I may be a broken record. Other people may have talked about this because I came onto the show late. So in the ACC, there's only 1 school that has a reasonable shot of breaking out of the granted rights, and that's Notre Dame.
As of right now. Yep.
As of right now, even within the reasonable time frame that the Nebraska president is talking about, that they're the only ones who can break the ACC, their portion of the GOR, because it's cheaper than everybody else's, right? As far as the PAC is concerned, I don't think a lot of people. I've seen like on Reddit and in other boards and stuff. A lot of people are talking about Oregon and Washington. I don't think it's Oregon and Washington. I legitimately think that Colorado and Arizona are getting ready to announce a move, and that's going to be the domino that sets everything off. Arizona and Colorado.
You said what
Sorry,
again? What 2 schools?
Arizona and Colorado.
And what are the 2 schools that you said other people are talking about?
Oregon and Washington.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of people are speculating that it's Oregon and Washington to the Big Ten. I still think it's Colorado and Arizona to the Big 12. Others may disagree, and I'm sure I'm getting roasted for it in chat.
Hey.
I don't know. I'm listening on the phone as I'm driving downtown.
Yeah.
But I think, legitimately, I think that Colorado and Arizona, they have options, and they don't need to wait. They don't need to wait for an Oregon or a Washington to say no more. We're kind of getting down to the wire. Like, yes, the Pac-12 still has an entire year to get a deal done, but at the same time, at some point, you got to show me what you got.
Yeah.
And I made this comment to Jim Williams earlier today, that at some point, or it may have been yesterday, but at some point, the PAC schools that are in the PAC for good, they know that they don't have any option to go elsewhere. They got to stop worrying about what Oregon and Washington and Colorado and Arizona are going to do. They got to start worrying about what they're going to do. Screw the linear requirements, screw whatever. Get the best deal you can and go forward. At some point, you just got to say, like, here's where we're taking the PAC. Stay with us. Go away. We don't care. You do you. And because they have the majority. There's only about 4 or 5 teams that can legitimately leave at this point. Others may follow after a couple of them leave. Who knows? Anyway, I've rambled on for long enough, and I will let you get back to other callers.
Got it. Thanks for the phone call. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Tony, tough Tony, Mr. Gopher's in the house. What have you heard about the Southern California AD situation? I heard what you guys all heard. Mike Bowen is out.
Call from
Monavision.
Okay, Monavision, can you just wait 1 second,
Yep,
sir?
go ahead and do the super chat.
I'm sorry, I always do this to you. Tony, I heard what you guys have heard. I've been really busy lately So I just read what was out there. Mike Bowen is out. They brought in a outside firm to investigate the culture that he was leading. It wasn't up to snuff, so they parted ways. That's all I know about it. Before we get to Mo and Vision's call, again, I just want to reiterate something about Colorado and Arizona. Mainly about Colorado right now because we have them in the center of the stage in Act 11. This statement by Ted Carter, as Mona Vision said, it's a dagger. It's not cloak and dagger. It's the dagger, which he is absolutely correct on. Again, Colorado. I mean, an ACC school in a couple years, domino effect, ACC, President Ted Carter. I think he's talking about Notre Dame, to be honest with you. If that happens, ACC starts to unravel. We believe, or I should say there's people out there that believe Florida State money perch said it pretty clearly. We reported at March 31st that Notre Dame was the key. We went through that already. But things are going to get awfully messy here 18 months from now, 24 months from now, 36 months from now. Colorado, are you sure you're going to get another opportunity to move into a conference that has a 6-year deal? That looks like it's becoming a national conference? The Big 12 is going to be there for the 2026 Gold Rush? Colorado, are you going to have another opportunity? No offense to Colorado. I know there are Buffalo people, fans who DM me and no offense. No offense at all, but you might not get another opportunity. This might be it. You're going to stick with the Pac-12? You're going to stick with the Pac-12 when Ted Carter, the president, is saying, well, maybe we should go to 4, or could we go to 4 Pac-12 schools? Because 2 is a certain. A lot of people are backpedaling on Twitter tonight. A lot of people are backpedaling on the message boards tonight. They look like a Michael Jackson doing the moonwalk tonight. Go ahead, Mona Vision. The floor is yours, Mr. Buckeye.
Well, while Colorado's on the stage, Ted Carter's in the third row giving spoilers out here. He has given you the whole plot line. How big should the Big Ten be? Do we need 4 more Pac-12 teams?
Yeah.
And
I'm going to put that up on the screen. Go ahead.
I think we have another year or 2 of the status quo with few minor changes.
Yeah.
Of course we do, because USC and UCLA don't join for a year, and Notre Dame isn't free from NBC until the end of the 2024 season. So, of course, there's not going to be any. Those are the changes that he's talking about right there. Things are going to happen. 2 teams that move from one of the Power 5 conferences that causes things to unravel. That's Colorado and Arizona leaving the Big 12, freeing the Big 10 up to take more Pac-12 teams. Ideally, Oregon and Washington, and going to 18. One team leaves the ACC and it has a domino effect. We know that's Notre Dame. That's the only school it can be. Same with teams leaving the Pac-12. And that's going to be the addition of the Pac-12 teams all trying to find their spot in the mix. But you said it perfectly. This is straight dagger. Straight dagger.
Well, you said it perfectly. I didn't say that.
Yeah, well, you reiterated it perfectly, Craig.
I stole your words perfectly. Yep.
He basically told George Kliavkoff, we're not done shopping there yet. And by the way, we're not done shopping there yet. So Colorado, Arizona, ASU, Utah, you might want to think real hard about what you're going to do next, because if we have to wait, we'll wait, but we're taking from the conference. So you might as well get into the Big 12 while you've got the negotiation power, while you can get in there as a full member and get the full payout, as opposed to when we take your best teams and they can basically leverage you into whatever favorable situation they have. So, like I said, it's not conjecture, it's not speculation. These are spoilers, people.
Yeah,
he is telling you how it's going to go down.
Yeah, look, like, Ted Carter, okay. You can make an argument that he should not have said this out in the public. Okay? You can make that argument. By the way, just to give you a peek behind the curtain, and I'm going to make this a general statement. Okay? I think I should say this, but Nebraska is a sieve when it comes to information. Okay? I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm just going to leave it at that. Nebraska, God love them. And by the way, I saw some comments saying Nebraska's at the bottom of the Big Ten. Big Ten doesn't have a bottom. That just doesn't work that way. But I will say that loose lips sink ships, and Nebraska would sink a lot of ships if they were head of communications at the Big Ten. But my point is this. You can argue that Ted Carter should not have said that in public. No doubt about it. But he definitely did not say that out in public without all of them talking it in private for months. This isn't something that, that Wisconsin president tapped Ted Carter on the shoulder and said, hey, what about 4 Pac-12 schools? And then Ted Carter blurted it out. I mean, they've been talking about this with intensity since Kevin Warren gave his notice. And I have the receipts from so many people saying how crazy I was when I said that. And, but again, I'm not going to be a jackwagon about it. Go ahead, Monavision. Sorry to interrupt.
All right, I'll leave you with this. If you notice the way those quotes are worded, he is very carefully tiptoeing around tortuous interference. He is posting everything as a hypothetical and a speculation. He is not saying these things are going to happen. He's just saying these things are going to happen. With that, no future big expansion without Washington and Oregon, and then Notre Dame.
Yeah. That's what I think. I think Monavision's off the line. Thank you, Monavision. Appreciate your phone call. Great phone call. I think he hung up. I hope he hung up. Okay, UConn. I'm going to get to UConn in a second here.
Call from
Immaculate.
Brian, can you just hold for a second?
Absolutely.
I want to talk about UConn. I want to talk about UConn because I was going to get to UConn the last live show and we got cut off by Comcast. We reported, I don't know, a couple of live shows ago that UConn was in the back row of the theater for Act 11 that's going on right now, and it should last for another week or so, but who knows with this Ted Carter, that might have pushed up the schedule. But anyways, we think Act 12 is going to begin around June 1st. Could happen a few days before, we shall see. UConn has a Big 12, from what we know, and we reported to you before the Athletic came out and other people came out, there's legit interest. It's not just a leverage play by Brett Yormark. And that's what was our title of our last live show when it got cut off. Legit interest in UConn. Now, Yormark's going to have to swing the votes on that, right? First of all, you're going to have to see what the dominoes are. Does a Colorado come in? Does an Arizona come in? And if those two schools come in, maybe Brett Yormark hits the pause button. Maybe he checks out what's happening out east in ACC country. Does Notre Dame finally pull the trigger? Or, does Colorado balk? Does Arizona say no right now, not right now? And then Brett Yormark goes to UConn? We shall see. But there is legit interest. And Brett Yormark, I understand from Big 12 fans. I get it. UConn's a great, great basketball. Of course they are. They're blue blood now. Come on. Women's basketball, men's basketball, they're elite, top of the line. UConn versus Kansas, UConn versus Houston. Go right down the line. You know what Brett Yormark wants to do to separate basketball and football content in the next media deal? You know that Brett Yormark wants to go. He wants to tell the Big 12 story from New York to California. He said it in public. And so far, every time Brett Yormark says it in public, it tends to come true. Have you noticed that? So UConn, okay, they're not New York, but they are New York. They are New York. They bring that market with them. Big 12 suddenly gets talked about in the New York media, in the East Coast media. That's why Rutgers is with the Big Ten. Everyone talks about Rutgers is in the Big Ten because of all the cable boxes, the population, the Big Ten alumni that lives in New Jersey. All that is true. But Rutgers also gets the media to have to talk about Big Ten content. That's what UConn would do to the Big 12. There's no question that Brett Yormark's going to have to work hard to get the votes if the situation arises where he still thinks Big UConn would be a value addition to the Big 12 after whatever happens with Colorado and Arizona. He would have to get the votes. But I will say this, and this is why we reported that UConn and Big 12, that Big 12 had legit interest in UConn. Legit. Not just a leverage ploy. Legit interest in UConn. Brett Yormark, he's got political capital to use on this. He's got political capital in the Big 12. I'm going to tell you something. Kevin Warren, after the first few months of his commissionership, he had no capital, no political capital. George Kliavkoff, he's got no political capital. Grace Sankey's got his political capital could reach from here to the moon. Brett Yormark has the political capital. He could, if he wanted to, we believe at Peek Around the Corner, could push UConn into the Big 12 if he decides to go there. Now, from the Big UConn's point of view, they probably have to take a discount. They wouldn't get the full membership. I would do it if I was UConn. I do not like the analogy of UConn. This is AAC all over again. Big 12 is not the AAC. Big 12 has autonomy 5. Big 12 is going to get that playoff money. Each school is going to get the same amount of playoff money before performance money comes into the picture. UConn's, if they come in the Big 12, that conference, the champion, the expanded playoff money is going to give UConn triple more money than they do in their current media deal alone. Not even added in Big 12's media money, even though it's coming in at a discount, probably. So, depending, when Benedict said, the UConn's athletic director says, well, we're going to have to wait. It's not a decision that's in front of me now, or 5 days from now, a week from now, maybe a month from now. He was telling a lot of truth there. He has to wait. They have to wait to see how the dominoes fall before them when it comes to Colorado or Arizona, and who heck knows after that. Brian, thanks for your patience. The floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate it. Fun calling as always. Just to talk on the UConn thing real quick to follow up on you, but then I'd like to get into some talk about the playoff, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I 100% think UConn is going to be in the Big 12 at some point in time. It's an inevitability. But as for right now, I think what Yormark is doing is he's playing the P5 vote game. Whenever he wants to play a leverage move, he just has to leverage, I'm going to vote in, bring in one of these G5 schools, and that creates a new P5 vote. And a lot of the folks at the top networks Big Ten, SEC. They don't want that yet. So it's just a kind of like, get this moving, pay these schools the money they want, Colorado, Arizona, so that we can get them in here. Otherwise, I'm going to have to bring in Connecticut and have another P5 vote before you get the vote that you want to happen. So in my opinion, it is kind of a leverage move, but he 100% wants UConn at some point in time. But it's give Arizona and Colorado what they want for money so we can get them over here, and then I won't make another P5 vote before the vote happens. That's just my view on it. I could be dead wrong, but that's my thoughts on that. But as far as the playoff, I have to move to this now because my 25 cap talk has been taken by Civic, so I want to blow your mind on something here because I think you're ready. So I got a couple qualifying questions. Do you think that the playoffs in 2026 is going to be larger than it is right now?
This is speculation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No steam.
Absolutely.
No steam. I got no steam. If I had steam, I'd say it. I don't think anyone could possibly have steam on it right now. I'm going to say yes. I think it's going to be 16, and I think there's going to be 4 automatic berths. I think there's going to be 12 at large. And now I could be wrong on the 4 automatic berths. It could be all 16 at large, but it's going to be at least 12 at large. And that is that. And I think that's what Big Ten, SEC, I think that's why there's going to be more expansion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a hurdle that's going to be pushed away. More at large is going to be entered into the playoffs.
You actually jumped on my second question. You got it. I will say I disagree with you on the 16. My math that I'm going on. That's why I come up with 25 as a cap. It's all math based. I don't believe they're going to expand. I do believe you're 100% correct that the automatic qualifier is here to stay. That was the big thing that came out. Because tell me, am I wrong? When they came up with this 12, wasn't it all the presidents that came in and kind of hijacked the negotiation and took it over from the ADs and the network officials? Am I remembering this correctly?
At some point, they took it away from them all. Yes.
That's not usual, right? Like that's generally something that just gets brought to the president's table. They sign. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. But they did take it away from the playoff management committee, whatever you call it. And
so
in the Big Ten, they changed them. A lot of people changed their minds on the structure of that 12-team playoff, and there was a lot of inside baseball going on there in terms of the Big Ten, the Pac-12. They didn't want ESPN to have control of all 11 playoff games for the 2024-2025 season. There was a lot of inside stuff going on there. Horse trading of votes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I still think I don't think you're going to or accept what I have to say or think it's right. But I actually don't even think 12 is the number. I don't think 16 is the number. Do you remember when the great conference commissioner Delaney left? Do you remember, if I remember this right, what he said his greatest regret was of his time as commissioner?
I don't remember what he said.
It was basketball. He regretted how they lost control of basketball, the content, and the value. He regretted that the NCAA took it because now the only basketball that really matters to the networks is in March and later.
Yeah.
They don't jack off with their conference tournaments. The only conference tournaments that matter are tiny little conferences where their winner gets the automatic qualifier position, and no one's putting those on TV. They lost all value in basketball. And what he said is that it would never happen in football. And this 12-team thing that's happening for only 2 years, they're only giving it 2 years. Now, one might think it's to get it to expand further, to get the value for it to expand further. But what I'm saying is I actually think it's kind of an end around where they're going to get values and metrics for these games, these matchups, so that they can then turn around in their future negotiations with the networks for their conference tournaments. Because when they expand and they create these new conference tournament games, that's going to spark renegotiations. So they want to have their full lineups before that. They want to have their full lineup there to negotiate with, to have basically just the Big Ten and the SEC be on top, because once they control all of that, they're going to control the negotiation much more than they did when they had 5 Power 5 conferences. So they're actually, just me doing the math on this, if you have 12 teams in this tournament right now, that you have 8 teams in the first round, 4 games. That goes to the second round. That's 8 teams because of the byes. That's another 4 games. So you've got 2 weeks there. That goes into a week of 4, and then it goes to the championship week. You got 4 weeks of games there. Now, if you cut that in half, what I originally actually had thought was happening was they're going to go with 6 teams, 5 champions, and 1 extra kind of wild card for, whether it be a Notre Dame or whatever. But if you take it back down to 6, you have your first round of 4, and then your second round of 4. So 4 down to 2. You actually can do the exact same thing with the conference tournament before that to get your conference champion. And the way the math runs out, you're only actually adding 1 week of gameplay. If you cut the national playoff down to 6, and then you have a 16 conference tournament, you control that as a conference.
Yeah, and that may happen. That may happen in a 2 solar system world, right?
That's basically where we're going.
Yeah.
And Big 12 with Yormark, they've basically broke the system. Yormark is the MVP of all realignment for understanding what was going on and playing the game based upon Power 5 votes and not school value. Yeah. He broke them when they took Texas and Oklahoma, and that was meant to just beat down the Big 12.
Yeah. Well, Bob Bowlesley was the one who expanded with the 4 schools. What broke the Pac-12 is Yormark got ahead of them in getting that deal done.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why now talking Connecticut is same reason. Look, we'll add more Power 5 votes in this thing. But that's where I think that's going. And I think folks, they need to understand the possibility of that and how when they say, 24 is not possible, 25 is not possible, not only is it possible, it's probable because it gives them so much control of the Power 5 vote that any of these rules that they want to pass, they'll be able to pass.
Yeah.
And we'll have such a strong position in negotiations with the networks that the numbers are going to blow people away. So that's about the best I got for you. I could sit here and say where schools are going to go, but it doesn't matter. They're going to go.
We're going to have a lot. We'll have a lot of time to speculate.
Absolutely.
So, got it. Thank you, sir. Great call.
Appreciate having me on, man. Have a great night.
Thank you for the great phone call. Again, the number is 763-260-1333. Give us a call. The floor will be yours. A lot of great comments. People want Miami in the Big Ten. Catholics versus the convicts. Baby. A lot of people still don't believe that Notre Dame is going to be moving out of independence. A lot of people believe that Notre Dame is going to get a decent NBC contract. Again, you guys know how I feel about that. There's lots of things that are going against Notre Dame keeping their independent football status. One of them being standalone content doesn't work in today's media world. Bundled content is a lot more valuable to these media companies than standalone content. And we've gone over examples over and over and over again. Plus, these super conferences are going to be making the rules. These super conferences are going to be creating more revenue streams. Notre Dame can't keep up with that. Lots of reasons why I think Notre Dame is going to have to make the decision to leave college football independence. We've been saying that since day one of this YouTube channel.
Call from.
Steve.
To
Steve.
accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Steve, are you still with us? Hello, Steve. I think we lost Steve.
Call from.
Eric calling, Mesquite.
To accept.
Eric, are you there? No, you're not there. Phones are starting to collapse. Well, try to give us a call again, guys. Something going on with the phone. Maybe you two calls collided with each other. I'm not hanging up on you. We're just having some difficulties with the phones. Sorry about that. So we'll look at this again. The bombshell. The bombshell from Nebraska's President Ted Carter. How big should we go? Do we need 4 more Pac-12 teams?
Call from.
Steve.
Steve, the floor is yours.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
Yeah, I apologize for the phone. I don't know what happened on that.
Could have been on my end, too. I'm not sure either. Couple of things here. Kind of a far-fetched, thinking out of the box type of thing.
Good.
With the networks, now I know there's a lot of stuff going on with the ACC and if Notre Dame's the first to leave and all da-da-da-da, but would these networks have come and told these commissioners and the presidents of these universities, hey, you guys get your room in order so we know what the hell we're bidding on come 26. Would you guys do that, please?
I think they have said that, and I think they've sent a strong message with the low balling, the terrible offers they gave the Pac-12.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, move on to my next comment. You've said many, many times, and I'd like your opinion too, as I give you my comment here, that Fox wants Oregon, and Fox is saying, well, hell, if we want Oregon, might as well take Washington with them. That'd be a good pair to bring in.
Yep.
Now, Fox wants Miami or Florida State.
Yep.
They've got UCF. They've got UCF in the Big 12.
Yep.
That's okay. They like that.
Yeah.
But don't think for a minute that Fox doesn't want Florida State or Miami. One or the other. Get them. Big Ten, go get one. I just truly believe that. And then my next thing is, and then I'll let you go, I am tired. You had a little rant earlier today. Here's my little rant. Because us old guys are allowed to do this, I guess. I don't know. But anyhow.
Yeah.
My little rant is I am so tired of Pac-12 fans saying, and I'm not defending the Big Ten, that the Big Ten will have blood on their hands. I'm sorry. Let's have a quick little history lesson here, Greg. Who contacted who when it came to USC and UCLA in the Big Ten? Answer.
They called first.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. After the UCLA fiasco in December, did a person from Cal say, well, we tried to get in the Big Ten?
Richard Lieb.
Okay.
Richard Lieb.
Yeah. Okay. That's the second footnote on the let's blood on the hands. Okay. So, and then who flew to Chicago and New York to have meetings with the Big Ten?
Oregon and Washington.
Okay, so what has the Big Ten done? Not to defend them, but why does the Big Ten have blood on their hands? Anybody? Raise your hand.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. I get it. This is a legendary phone call, no question about it.
Okay.
This is a grand slam. Yeah.
I mean, and the same goes. I'm sorry, Greg. The same goes for. They can say, Yormark, snake oil salesman, da 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 da, and maybe he has, or some of his people have contacted Pac-12 members or whatever. Okay, but here's the thing: when a president of the Pac-10 in Arizona says he said it more than once, they have affinities for the Big 12. Really?
Yeah.
What? I mean, come on, Pac-12 nation. You know, and I'll leave you with this, Greg. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I just put up on the screen of what Dave. We haven't gone through this yet. What Dave Hickey said, the Arizona athletic director.
Cool.
Being questioned in an interview. It was the Arizona Alumni Magazine. I have it up on everyone's screen. And the question is, and what are your hopes for your new conference as you move into the new phase? This is Dave Hickey, Arizona athletic director. I'm not sure how to say it because it might change tomorrow. But we're faced with a new and ever-changing world and conference alignments. Adjustments will have to be made. But I know that we will land in a very good spot. Same type of language that Oregon's athletic director said earlier. Certainly the hope. Who knows? Whenever you print result may be different than the hope. Because this was printed out in a magazine newsletter. But we would like to be with the Pac-12 and continue the great tradition of the conference. But if not, there will be a new landscape and a new opportunity for the University of Arizona.
And that goes with several weeks ago when he said we have an affinity for the Pac-12 or the Big 12 and some of the things they represent. Now, come on. Let's jump into reality here, Pac-12 fans. It's not a good situation. It's not a good situation.
And
it's just not.
And Ted Carter made it a lot worse.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about taking that little bit of gasoline and just kind of throwing it on that little fire.
Yeah.
All right, Greg, I'll let you go. I know you probably got a million callers. Appreciate the show. Congratulations to your mother and father. My mother and father made it, a year ago, January, to 65. Then we lost my father shortly after.
Wow.
They made it to 65.
Wow. Well, thank you, Steve. Steve?
All right, buddy.
Steve?
Yeah.
Steve?
Yes.
Legendary phone call. Thank you so much. The next time you see your father, it will be forever, Steve.
That's right. And legendary or not, I'm a legend in my own mind. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Call from.
No, that wasn't me. That call again. I didn't even touch anything yet. A lot of phone calls coming in. Look, I'm not going to bring up any names. I see someone being in the chat room. Can we make something clear here? Colorado may not go to the Big 12. Arizona might not go to the Big 12. Oregon and Washington might not go to the Big 10.
Call from.
Eric Tom.
To accept.
Eric, you there?
I am here.
Okay, can you please just hold 1 second? I got to finish a thought before that thought
I'll
goes.
wait as long as you need me to, sir.
Thank you so much. Colorado might not go to the Big 12. They may want to hang on with the Pac-12. to see what happens 3, 4, 5 years down the line. Arizona might not go. Somehow the Big Ten, maybe we hit a big recession, and suddenly these media companies do not want to pay for an Oregon and Washington. It might not happen. But to come out and continue for people to come out and say there's no chance of it happening. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I mean, you have to live in absolute delusion land. It might not happen, but to say there's no chance, to say these schools were not calling, to say that the Pac-12 schools have not been calling the Big 12, and then to lambaste all the reporters out there, to say they were in part of Endeavor plot, to say that the Big Ten wasn't going to expand anymore at the Pac-12, and there was like an absolution, like there was no chance of it happening. People that were telling you that were lying. That's what I've been accused of this whole time. Hey, guess what? We haven't been lying. And you know what? And I say this again. Oregon and Washington might not be able to climb over the wall in the next 2 years. Maybe something bad happens in this country. But to say there's absolutely no chance, and if someone is telling you that the expansion door is cracked open, because someone is telling you that Kevin Warren was the number one hurdle, somebody's telling you that the Big Ten presidents before June 30th of 2022 made the decision they didn't want just 2 schools in the Pacific Coast on an island. For me, for people to say that I've been lying about this whole time, give me a break. To say that there's no chance, none of any of this happening. I gotta go back. Sorry, Eric, I apologize. Can you hold on a little bit longer?
Yeah, no problem.
If this doesn't open the door to people's delusion, Ted Carter comments. Of course, we knew this before. Peek around the corner, PATC community. We've known this has been reality. The forces of consolidation is still at hand, ladies and gentlemen. It didn't stop with USC and UCLA to the Big Ten. Now, does it happen in the next 5 months? Some big hurdles have been kicked away. Some big hurdles are no longer there, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Warren, that was a huge hurdle. That's not there anymore. There are other hurdles, but that's not there anymore. And just to say that anybody who disagrees with you is lying to you, should be held accountable, and all this other, as my father would say, baloney. Give me a break. I don't want to act like a jackwagon tonight. I really don't. But, man, some people, this is their first rodeo. You can tell it's their first rodeo. And they're saying that Greg Pflugar, who's been in a lot of rodeos, in other words, a lot of this stuff that I've been in the middle of for years, don't tell me that I'm wearing my cowboy hat incorrectly. Go ahead, Eric. The floor is yours.
Hey, first of all, anybody that calls you a liar is just despicable. I think agree or disagree, and we probably agree 90% of the time, but there's times we don't.
Yeah.
You're an honest guy, and for anybody to impugn your character makes me really, really angry. And Tony Altimore, in my opinion, is kind of the Baghdad Bob of college football alignment, and I'll just leave that there. And I'll be quick because I called earlier, but a few things real quick. First of all, to my fellow BYU fan, if you remember the first 2 things, the whole fun of this channel is that we get to speculate about wild, funny things that in a million chance that probably is not going to happen. That's half the fun of the show. Probably no one thought USC, and probably a lot of people thought it was wild speculation that USC and UCLA would be going to the Big Ten, but it happened. So never say never. But if you remember, I said at the beginning like twice, it's not going to happen. It's a 1 in a million, 1 in a billion a chance.
Yeah.
So for him to say that I need to knock it off and stop, that I'm under like some, I know BYU's not going to the Big Ten. I told you that to begin with.
Yeah.
And then people can talk about whatever they want to talk about. And I think him thinking Colorado's going to the Big Ten is just as delusional as Utah or BYU going to the Big Ten, quite frankly. But I'm not going to tell him to stop talking about it because that's his privilege. And for Western Civic, I don't know. I think he needs to get off his meds. He's still talking about BYU wanting to go back.
Hold on. Okay, let's not throw. I understood he slipped a bomb at you. Let's just
let's put it like this.
Let's calm the waters.
I'll put it this way. Yeah. He's still on the wild theory that BYU wants to go back independent. If BYU wanted to be independent, they would still be independent because they were already independent.
No, BYU recognized the change in world. They got it. BYU executed flawlessly. They got into the Big 12, and that's where they want to be. That's where they're going to stay, and they have a very good future ahead of them. Very good future.
In my opinion, is delusional thinking, and the whole reason they went independent, if you listen to Tom Homo, is because they wanted to get into a Power 5, and they thought that was their best path. But enough of that. I want to talk about the Pac real quick a little bit, and more so the ACC. I watched a show a while back. I don't know if you saw it, but they had an expert on that really seemed the legal side of this and the contract side of it brought up an avenue that I haven't thought about before. He said that he didn't think they're going to break the tier of rights. He was talking about how every year that passes, the amount of money it costs them to get out, goes down.
Yeah.
And he was saying that, look, these other schools know they're going to leave anyway. They can either work out a sweetheart deal and be left with something so they have options when they have to go on to a new conference, or they can just ride out the grant of rights till the end when all hell breaks loose and half of them have nowhere to go. And I don't remember all the intricacies of what he talked about, but he worked out how much schools like Florida State and North Carolina could make from being in the SEC and Big Ten, and basically said that they could pay the 4 or 5 other schools that maybe didn't have nowhere to go a big fee to let them out, because if they didn't do that, they were going to end up in the long run with nothing anyway. And the grant of lights would never last, because when it gets within 2 or 3 or 4 years, each year the cost to get out of it goes down, and they're going to leave anyway. So he basically was talking about some sort of buyout system, and that the teams that went to were able to land in other conferences that paid them more than what they were getting in the ACC, but maybe it wasn't the Big 10, maybe it was like the Big 12 they went to. They would get paid something too, but it would be on a smaller sliding scale because their damages were less. But he was basically saying that he thinks it's going to end up being a buyout to the schools that are less damaged, so they're made whole, and that everybody will go their merry way. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, that could happen, but I think that scenario is years and years away. And
he's talking about 2 to 3 years. That possibly, we're talking 2 to 3 years.
Well, then you're still writing out a $300 million check. I think this is going to the courts. So. With
the kind of in defense of you, like how you said these people that think that the Big 12, the Pac-12 schools haven't been talking to the Big 12 or living, kind of on a fantasy island. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's been reported in the news by reputable reporters that I'm not saying Utah's interested or that Utah wants to go to the Big 12. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is they did not talk directly, but it's been reported in the news that they've went through BYU they've had BYU as a go-between, since they have a long-standing relationship, obviously. The Big 12 was talking through BYU to Utah, and Utah was talking through BYU to the Big 12. And I also have it on reliable sources through friends of mine that a couple certain schools in the Southwest that names start with A, State, and just A, have been talking been talking through BYU because they have a relationship that goes clear back to the 60s. They've been talking, and there's a huge LDS population in Arizona, and they actually share big donors that donate to both schools, that the Arizona schools have been talking using BYU much in a similar way to Utah has for many, many, many months now. So for people to say that they haven't been talking, at least through third parties, to the Pac-12 and probably directly in some cases, are up in the night. And I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Great phone call again. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I think I've said this before. If I haven't said it before, I'm going to make it clear. First of all, Cameron B., thank you for the super chat. Appreciate your continued generosity to this channel. It's a shot across the bow for Arizona and Colorado to get out. Yep. It's a shot across a lot of different bows. A lot of different people got to be thinking tonight. Holy smokes. Thank you, Cameron B., so much. Appreciate it.
Call from
Larry.
Larry, can you just hold for a second?
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. In regards to the pro rata deal, and I think I mentioned this before, I know I have, but I'm going to make it clear tonight. So listen up. In this pro rata clause, yes, contractually, ESPN, they have to pay, let's say Colorado and Arizona comes into the Big 12. ESPN would pay what they would pay Arizona and Colorado the same as they pay the other current 12 Big 12 schools, not counting Oklahoma and Texas. And of course, Fox doesn't have that pro rata deal with the Big 12. I would strongly advise each and every one of you, if Colorado comes on board, I think you're going to see, if it happens, I think you're going to see a report. We're pretty sure at Peek Around the Corner that you'll see a report that says that Fox will honor the pro rata as well, even though they're not contractually bound. That of Colorado, Arizona, if they decide to come in next, I would strongly advise you to not be shocked if a Colorado would get the full bolt coming in to the Big 12. Okay? Everyone hear me on that? Okay, go ahead, sir. The floor is yours, Larry.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, that was a good point. I agree with you on that. Fox would probably help move a few teams. If you remember, we had this conversation about the old sabotage of the contract, getting a media deal, a couple months ago. It's kind of weird. It seems like the Pac-12 is in the position, like the ACC is, we have all the infighting right now. The Pac-12 is at the ACC point without being locked into a grant of rights. So if you flipped it, if that makes sense, like you have the top teams wanting to get out of the ACC and they can't, where you have the top teams in the Pac who can get out. And so, in my opinion, I think a lot of this word speak is, you're talking unequal revenue sharing, and then you'll have teams say, well, if that's the case, we're out of here because we're not going to get that great of a deal. And then you have Oregon and Washington could also be saying, well, then we'll just leave anyway if you're not going to give it to us. So, I mean, it's a business world on top of what everything that's going on. So, we're taking these news reports, and a lot of them can be posturing, in my opinion, because the two teams that are the loudest have been the two most irrelevant teams. And some of the teams that are being the quietest are the ones that are the strongest Big Ten candidates. So I just think it's a business move. So some of these reports that come out, you could say whether it's illegal or not, but inside trading or whatever, you start getting the word out, you can drive a stock up or you can drive a stock down by getting the word out. So I think there's some posturing going on, just in my opinion. And then also at the beginning, I put that statement, that's David Smoke. I can't imagine. I've never been through this, Greg.
Yep.
But the 8 teams that are left in the Big 12 have constantly, the realignment door is always, like David Smoke said, that door has been open forever in the eyes of the Baylor people because there's always somebody trying to leave. And I couldn't imagine living in a world that those 8 teams have had to live in. Actually 6, because 2 of them were additions. So just my 2 cents. If you want to elaborate on what you think of what I said about the ACC Pac-12, it's just kind of a flip situation.
Yeah, it is.
Where the ACC is locked in and the Pac-12 has all those options.
Yeah. Can I make a comment while you're on the phone here? It's just in the Omaha article in which Ted Carter said all this stuff.
Right.
He said, who gets to play? I don't know. That doesn't. He says everything's about to change. I think Big Ten football, through the chancellors and presidents, has made the decision to try to be national. I applaud the move for Nebraska to show our brand in California is a valuable thing. When and if we go to play in the Rose Bowl, we're going to get exposure in California. How big should it be? I don't have the answer to that. Do we need 4 more Pac-12 teams that want to join? Time is going to tell. So we'll see. Again, I think it speaks a lot when he says 4 more, not 2 more. I think 2 is a given, and I think 4 is a given if Big Ten decides to go to 24 sometime down the future.
Yeah, and if that happens, then the 4 corner schools, I think, would move. And I think, to be honest, I think there's some value in those. I mean, it's not Big Ten SEC value, but I could see the networks wanting some of those teams to move that are in decent markets and, have decent viewership. They're not high, but they're valuable to a degree.
Yeah.
So, if those 4 teams leave, I don't see the Pac surviving because now it's the Mountain West in that state. So, all right. Well, I appreciate you
Great
taking my
phone call.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. And again, as we sit here on May 20th, Saturday night, what do you, Washington and Oregon, they're reading this article. They're reading the article, Ted Carter, what he said in the Omaha paper. How can Washington and Oregon, how can they sign a grant of rights of 2 years, of 3 years? It's impossible. They can't do it. So once again, that deflates the value of this Pac-12 media deal. Do you think Colorado and Arizona, are they sitting there going, gee whiz, I think Oregon and Washington, I think, this is really a deflating night for certain Pac-12 schools. I think it's an interesting night for Utah.
Call from
JB.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the name. What's the name?
JB.
Jay, the floor is yours, sir.
Greg, I've just started watching your show a couple of weeks ago. I really appreciate it. I've had a 40-year connection with a certain big-time D1 program, 20 years as a full-time employee, and I have to tell you, it's it's kind of wonderful but laughable to see all this going on. I don't know if most people know why this is going on, but some of it has to do with the fact that college sports, especially college football, has figured out it needs to go to a calendar like the NFL, going from summer workouts all the way to having a bigger playoff. And also, and people probably wouldn't care, people probably wouldn't know, athletic departments now have been run like corporations, and that's why they want more and more money. They need more and more money because when it's all said and done, the thing they know that's coming down the pipe is that they're going to have to pay these young people.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
They're going to have to pay. They're going to have to pay these young people, and the thing and everybody can go football this and basketball that. The other thing you have to worry about is Title IX, and the young women are going to get theirs too. So,
absolutely correct. It's why. I'm sorry. What was your name again?
JB.
JB. I'm sorry, Jay.
Yeah.
Make sure you call again, Jay. Thanks for coming into the PATC community. JB is absolutely correct. It is the number one reason. JB just laid it on the line. He just laid it down for everyone to see. It's the number one reason student athletes getting higher compensation is the number one reason, among many, exposure and other reasons, why USC called the Big Ten and why we spent 3 months at Flug Empire tweeting out all the information. March, April, May, June, and June 30th it dropped. The reason why USC had to get above the stratification line. It's the number one reason Texas and Oklahoma called Greg Sankey together. They weren't thinking, oh, geez, where is it easier for us to win a conference championship? No, they weren't thinking that. They were thinking, JB, what JB just said, student athletes down the road are going to get compensated. They're going to get not just NIL money, they're going to get direct compensation from the conference, school, or both. There's going to be conference-wide NIL deals. Are you listening to that, Notre Dame? Are you listening to that, Notre Dame? Swarbrick? So JB just punched. That is the straw that is stirring most of the drink, is the higher compensation. Athletic department's been being run as a corporation. Coaches are being paid like professional coaches. Athletic directors are getting paid. These athletic departments are adding on roster. What do they call them? Roster. I don't know what the name of it is. Roster. They're managing the rosters. They're recruiting. They're looking at the transfer portal. What was that?
I said, yes, they are.
Yeah, general manager. General manager. Right. Not just athletic director, a football general manager.
General manager. And basketball will have one soon.
Yes. Go ahead, JB. I'm sorry. You got the floor.
No,
great phone call.
that's fine. Yeah, I mean, basketball and other sports, depending on what school you're at, you know, be it hockey or whatever your third big sport is, they'll have them too.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, college athletics is figured out by watching the NFL. You have to have a league year. So this is the time of year to float rumors and keep college sports in the loop. News-wise, is to float rumors and innuendos and all these things. This school is going nowhere, this, that, and the other. I mean, like I stated earlier, you go from summer workouts for football players to the season starting to playoffs to, college free agency now, which is, the transfer portal, to the college draft, which is, of course, the first signing day. And then you go to winter workouts and spring ball, and then you have the second transfer portal or free agent route. And then you have, in late February, you have the second half of the draft, being the late signees. And then you have spring ball. And then you move back into this part of the year that we're in. This is what, 3 years in a row now?
Yeah.
Where there's everybody's worried about who's going where, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But I can tell you firsthand, I've watched it. They're being run by like corporations. They're gutting the long-time working staff. They're hiring interns. They're hiring people fresh out of college to pay them nothing, because they got to do two things. They got to improve their facilities to be able to recruit, and then they got to get leaner and leaner financially, because they know down the line they're going to have to start paying these young people.
And
nothing more, nothing less.
And all those things that JB said, and what we've been trying to say it since August 10th of 2022 on this YouTube channel. This is why when people look at graphs and spreadsheets about Pac-12 schools, the commonality of their schools, they want to stay together. Yes, they want to stay together. Of course, they want to play with their peers. Large research schools want to play with large research schools. But because of this change in the world that JB just greatly illustrated and laid out, that is why there's more to the discussion of just what has happened in the past, of who played who wants to play who, one region conferences. My goodness, things are changing. Can't you see? Can't you see what's going on? That is my statement. And JB just laid it out again.
Well, I'm glad I was able to help you, Greg.
Thank you.
Like I said, I enjoyed the show. I've been only on to it for a couple of weeks, but you got a locked-in listener.
Thank you,
these
sir.
days. So
I appreciate.
The other thing I want to say,
yeah,
I do appreciate the way you treat your callers and your chatters, and the way you demand respect in the room, and the way you treat everybody with respect. So I want to thank you for that also.
Thank you, JB.
Take care.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Great call. Outstanding call. Tony, causing problems in the chat room again. If the athletes are employees, can they be fired by coaches? We're not going to discuss those heavy issues tonight, Tony. Tony always comes in with something that just, wakens everybody up. Tony, I got no comment right now on that question. Woo! Wow. A lot of great phone calls. A lot of great people coming on in. I think we're going to call it a night. With this big news, I think we're going to see other big news. I think a president like Ted Carter, when he says this, I read more and more of the article during the show, and he really lays it out there. Big Ten presidents, they've been discussing a lot. Big Ten is not done expanding. The expansion door is obviously wide open. It doesn't mean it's going to happen within the next 5 months, but it could. It could if certain dominoes fall the way they do. The presidents, Robert J. Jones, the Chancellor of Illinois, said it a couple weeks ago. We're doing a cost-benefit analysis. They're discussing it. Is it better to go now with the Washington, Oregon, or should we wait 5 years from now, 4 years from now, 6 years from now? And Mr. Carter laid a bomb out there because now Oregon and Washington, they see it in public. They've been told in private. We've told you they've been told in private. But now they see it out in public. The Pac-12 trying to negotiate an immediate deal with President Carter saying what he said tonight. Colorado and Arizona and especially I'm looking at you, Colorado, because you are in the center of the stage as we've entered Act 11, and Act 12 is on June 1st. What are you thinking, Colorado? What are you thinking? Stick or go? Stick or go? The hot bubble of action? The hot bubble of action that we talked about at Peek Around the Corner. It was going to happen between April 28th and May 17th. It happened dead in the middle of those days. Check your calendar. The weekend maybe of May 6th, May 7th, maybe it happened. Shot to the solar plexus of the Pac-12. Pac-12 is still standing. They're still standing. But can we please get away from this talk of absolutely nothing's going to happen, absolutely nothing's going to happen? People with feet of clay did not think that Oklahoma and Texas were going to call SEC together. The same people of clay, feet of clay, did not think that USC was a possibility for the Big Ten because the Big Ten was only going to expand with contiguous states. They weren't going to go all the way to the Pac-12. Those same people are saying the Big Ten will not, cannot, will not expand again to the Pacific Coast. The same people, feet of clay, say Notre Dame's going to stay football independent forever. Do you notice they say the same thing over and over again? Nothing's going to happen, because if it was going to happen, it would have been done long ago. No. JB just laid it out why things are changing. Because the landscape of college football and college sports is changing. The forces of consolidation is still going on. So keep your head on a swivel, PATC community. Put your head on a swivel. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. Act 11. We're moving into Act 12 for the Pac-12 here pretty soon. And Mr. Carter just threw a bomb in the middle of the college football landscape. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.